I just rode 145 miles on this brand new Harley-Davidson Nightster, and in this video I'm going to give you a brutally honest review of my first ride impressions. And here we are, about to hop on the brand new Nightster. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I'm like super excited to ride this bike after we just had that presentation this morning. So let's hop on and see how we feel. Okay, so we are about to take off to go get some photos taken, but before that, I want to show you guys how to turn this bike on. So you got your power switch over here, and this beautiful little analog screen. It's all LED, so the lights are nice and bright. And I just wanted to show you guys, this is how you cycle through the menu. So we got RPMs. I'll be interested to see that later. Obviously we have the miles, the odometer, A trip, B trip, and then our range. So we have 146 miles range, which, wow, that's actually really impressive for the size of this tank. You know, traditional Sportsters, you better refill after like 100 miles. So I'm gonna keep it on RPM because I would like to know how this bike is performing, because the revs go much higher on this bike. And then over here you have your modes. So right now we are in road mode, and then you have sport mode as well as rain mode. So I'm going to keep it in road mode for now because it's a brand new motorcycle. I've never ridden it before, but as soon as we start getting up into the mountains, you know we're putting her in sport. And then to start the bike, you press this little button right up here. And so already you can see the RPMs going. And then to kill it, flip the switch, just like that. We've been on the motorcycles for just a few miles now, and I'm already noticing just a couple little quirks about this bike. I will say the shifter peg and the rear brake lever are incredibly tiny. I have misshifted a couple times, and I have completely missed the rear brake a couple times. So they're there, but they're small. So some quick specifications of this motorcycle. I do believe the seat height is 27.5 inches. It's very low. It's considerably low for, you know, a Harley-Davidson. It is a 975cc, so it's a 975T, which stands for torque. And we're riding this in road mode right now, so I can already tell, like, as soon as I pop it into sport mode, this thing's just gonna launch away from me. So that's kind of exciting, and we'll definitely get into sport mode later on. But right now, just kind of getting a feel for the bike. The only thing that's really standing out to me right now is how awkward my right foot feels trying to find that rear brake lever. So I'll definitely keep going, let you know. This is a very honest review, brutal if you would like to call it. I am not being paid by Harley-Davidson. This is the very first time I've ridden this motorcycle, and I just want to give you my first impressions. There are some other amazing content creators on this exact ride with me today, and if you are interested in specifications or proper bike reviews, you can head over to their channels. But this is going to be from the heart. This is going to be an honest ride, how I feel, how this bike makes me feel on the back of it. So enjoy!
12 seconds later.
As usual, as soon as we started that ride and really started to hit the twisties, my GoPro would not turn on. GoPro, I can't with you anymore. Stop it. Anyway, that was an absolutely beautiful first ride. These bikes, I have a lot to say still, so stay tuned, but now it's lunchtime. Let's go see what we're doing for lunch. just like that, finished lunch, and we're heading up to the top of Route 33. It's gonna be a beautiful, twisty ride. So before we really start getting into the twisty part of this ride, I did want to let you guys know that riding Sportsters is not a new thing to me. I have basically ridden every model of Sportster from the mid-90s and up. So I've ridden the newer Iron Sportsters. I've ridden my husband's 01 883. I've ridden the 72s. I've ridden the 48s. I've ridden the Nightsters, like the older Nightsters. I've ridden the tall one. I can't remember. Roadster. So I've definitely had my experience on Sportster motorcycles. And even though this is not the same motor, this is a Sportster. Well, this is a Nightster technically, but yeah, this is a very comparable bike. The position, everything about it is exactly the same as what you're used to with your traditional Sportster. So as soon as I slapped it into sport mode, man, this thing rips. It is 975 cc's, and you can tell the power difference between the 1200 and the 975. But the thing I love the most about this, and especially through these twisty roads, is the torque is non-stop. I could be in third gear going around a corner at 15 miles an hour and pull out with plenty of low-end torque on this machine. So it's quite lovely. Now, I told you we're going to be brutally honest about this, and unfortunately, I think for me, I like to be comfortable. And this is a raw motorcycle, man, you know, but I will say the little wind fairing up in the front is doing actually an amazing job. A better job than some of other comparable mid or small size motorcycles. This fairing's doing a great job. Hopefully you can hear it in the microphone. If there's good audio quality, then that means the fairing's doing its job. I am struggling to get used to revving it at such high RPMs. You know, you have to rev it a lot higher than traditional air-cooled Harley-Davidsons, but it just feels great all the way through, like the power band. You know, you could really whine it out, and it just keeps going. It's wonderful. Some things I'm also slightly uncomfortable with is I actually really love these mid-control pegs. They are amazing. But like I said, the brake pedal's a little too small, man. So I have to keep my leg kind of cocked to make sure I always have access to that rear brake. And it's a little uncomfortable after riding for so many miles. So we're gonna start getting into these twisty roads, and this is when I kind of shut up because I love to just focus on the corners and take in the beautiful scenery. So let's enjoy.
Just send me
In all seriousness, I don't know if this is a video about riding a brand new motorcycle or about how unrealistic using GoPros are. Hello, future editing Jess here, and I just wanted to let you know while reviewing this footage, the very last 20 minutes of riding and talking about this amazing machine was lost. I'll insert a clip here. Yep, there was no audio, and that's usually my issues with the GoPro. Either they just don't turn on at all, or I lose all of my audio files, and so it makes editing and storytelling incredibly difficult. So I just wanted to go ahead and add in this quick little section because I'm very passionate about some of the things I talked about and I think are very relative to you as a consumer and a viewer about this brand new Nightster. A few of the things I discussed in the riding portion of that video is I really want to take a moment and discuss the sound with you guys. I know a lot of people complain, it's not a Harley-Davidson. It doesn't sound like a Harley-Davidson. It doesn't feel like a Harley-Davidson. You guys, this motorcycle is not for you. Those of you that have those opinions and talk about those facts about whether or not this is a Harley-Davidson, this bike isn't for you. So you can stop now, okay? Harley-Davidson is doing an amazing thing, and I'm very glad for them to be able to step out of their comfort zone and actually build new motorcycles that younger, new, modern riders would like to actually ride. When you want to complain about the sound, there are aftermarket exhausts you can put on this thing. Harley-Davidson has very specifically explained that they design their motorcycles thinking about the fact that you are going to customize them how you want to. Maybe not you, since you don't actually like them, but you know, the people who actually buy the bikes. They are not going to discontinue their traditional air-cooled motors. The actual Sportsters that you know and love are still going to be around. This is just a new extension of the Sportster family. And I personally know a lot of people who say they'll never buy a Harley-Davidson. It's too heavy, it's too loud, it shakes too much, they hate it. Screw it. Harley is now manufacturing a product for those people. They're listening, they're paying attention. And so for those of you that keep complaining about it not being a Harley, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm just a person who lives on this little screen of yours. So that being said, I did want to discuss the actual sound of this motor. I kind of enjoyed it. When you're getting on it, you can feel that rumble. You can still feel it. No, it's not the same, not by any means. But compared to a lot of the other liquid-cooled motorcycles that I've ridden in my little short career here on YouTube, it felt very good and it sounded very good. So I wanted to get that out there. Now, another thing I spoke on when we were discussing the ride portion of this bike is, yes, the fuel tank is not really a fuel tank. It's a cover. It's fake. It's for aesthetics. And you know what? I loved it. It's still a metal tank, and it still helped keep the stripped down, streamlined look of the traditional Sportsters. And if you didn't notice, I have gloves that have like magnetic pieces in them. They still stuck to the tank. My rock form mount, my phone mount with the magnet in the back will still stick to the tank. I really like the tank. I'm glad Harley did that. Now, as for the actual fuel tank, yeah, it's under the seat. I was really upset the first time I heard that. I'm like, okay, man, you guys already tried this with the V-Rod and people hated it. Why are you doing it again? So after listening to this presentation we had this morning, we had a wonderful breakdown and a presentation talking through the thought process and the trial and error that Harley-Davidson experienced while building this motorcycle. And the main issue was with it being a liquid-cooled engine, they needed room for the airbox. And so making room for the airbox and the tank made the tank bigger and bigger and bigger and more top-heavy. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to avoid that. So the alternative solution is they put the tank under the seat. It's a 3.1 gallon tank, and I think your average fuel capacity and your ride length is probably about 140 miles, give or take, you know, depending on how you ride. If you ride in rain mode versus sport mode, you can kind of control that. But the thing I do love about the fuel tank being under the seat is it drastically adds to the low center of gravity. And it's very noticeable. They even actually warned us before we hopped on these motorcycles. They said, you're used to really throwing the bike over. Don't do that. You might actually just throw it all the way over. It's almost like a pendulum because all of the fuel is low on the motorcycle. And that played a big role into the cornering on those mountain roads that we were riding through. It was noticeable that it had a very low center of gravity. That being said, I do love the position of the fuel tank, but the one thing that really drove me crazy, and I'll actually talk about this at the end of the video, is
It's a key fob motorcycle. You don't need a key to ride the bike, but you need a key to access the fuel tank? I don't understand. Like, that part just totally threw me for a loop. Why isn't it a choice where we can leave it unlocked and just pop, you know, have a little release on the seat? So you have to insert the key, twist it, open the seat to access your fuel tank. It just seems counterintuitive to having a fob, a keyless bike. But yeah, that's the one thing that it just really aggravates me, because usually when I'm traveling and I'm riding, I don't want to sit there and fiddle with my fuel tank. I just want to fill up and go. Some other things I did notice, and like I said, this is a brutally honest review. It's my very first impressions. The throttle is incredibly twitchy. It has great low end power. It has torque all the way through the gears, but it's very on or off. The throttle is on or off, and it will just kind of, it'll lurch you forward. But again, that goes back into that electric throttle. I think those are things that I'm still learning as my riding career progresses. And of course, I own other motorcycles that have an electric throttle, but I don't really own other motorcycles that have modes. And I feel like having the rain mode, road mode, and sport mode plays into an aspect of why that throttle is so twitchy. So if you are interested in buying this motorcycle, I highly recommend test riding one first, see if it's for you. But just know that, like, don't let that scare you if it's your very first ride, because it will be twitchy. It's something you'll get used to and acclimate if it's your own motorcycle. I will touch on this at the end of the video as well, but another thing I did want to mention is I am classically not really a fan of the Harley-Davidson Sportster. When people ask me if I ride a Sportster or if my Dyna is a Sportster, I kind of get offended sometimes, and it's really hard to offend me, but and it's not because the Sportster is a girl's bike or whatever. It's actually a fantastic motorcycle. I just like creature comforts in certain bikes. So every single Harley-Davidson Sportster that I have ever ridden was incredibly uncomfortable. It felt out of control. It felt super shaky and twitchy and just not enjoyable to ride on the road. And so that's just kind of been my perception of Sportsters, is I'm like, I don't want this bike. It's too small. I'm a big girl. I can handle bigger bikes. Or it's too shaky. It gets too hot. I feel like I can't control this because it's just a little hamster. The Nightster is not like that, dude. That new Rev Max engine has completely changed my mind on what I like in Sportsters. And I'm actually really excited that Harley-Davidson has incorporated the Rev Max into the Sportster platform before really testing it out with other larger models. So like I said, 975T stands for torque. The bike is incredibly powerful for just 975 cc's. If you think of it, it's still significantly more than an 883, but with that power band and that torque, it will get you gone fast, faster than any other, well, stock Sportster. Sorry to interrupt this regularly scheduled YouTube video, but I had to get this in because it's very important to me, so let's get back. Well, we just got back from our 145-mile round trip ride, and I must say, only right towards the end was I starting to get a little uncomfortable. I know I talked about the ergonomics and how comfortable those mid-controls were. Right towards the end, I could use a little forward peg or passenger peg to stretch out a little bit. The really unfortunate thing, I was expecting to dislike this motorcycle because I have previously disliked the Harley-Davidson Sportsters. But after spending over 5 hours riding this machine today, I could have kept going and I could have had a lot more fun doing it, especially if I was by myself. A couple things I do want to note on this motorcycle right here. The intake right there sticks out a little too far, even though it is aesthetically flush and clean with the motorcycle. Standing up or riding for long periods of time, it kind of bumps into your legs a little bit, and I did kind of catch myself feeling a little cockeyed sitting on the seat because I was overcompensating for that intake. As much as I love gripping the tank with my knees, that did kind of get in the way, and sometimes it made cornering a bit tricky in my mind. As for heat, it really didn't put off that much heat. When you're sitting at stop signs, you can kind of feel it a little bit, but overall, I didn't feel that much heat from the engine at all. Due to the smaller displacement size of the motor, Harley got away with actually making a smaller radiator on the front, and down here is the little battery box. So the whole dynamics and lines of the motorcycle in general, with those features added on, it adds to the traditional classic look of the Sportster. This little fairing was wonderful. Nothing to complain about. I loved it. As much as I thought those bars were going to be aggressive and leaned forward, it honestly never bothered me all day, so
I really enjoy those bars. I don't think I would personally need the pullbacks for reach. Now let me show you the one thing that actually did annoy me a lot. Wait, can I not do this one-handed? Oh, no. Okay. Okay, so you open it from the other side. I was just being stupid. But down here, you got your big old fuel tank. Why? Other than those few tiny details that absolutely drove me insane, this is actually a really nice machine, and I think they're going to sell a lot of them. It's a very straightforward platform, a very high-functioning motorcycle without all the bells and whistles, and especially without the price tag. For the amount of technology you get in this machine right here for just under $14,500, I think, that's a pretty good bang for your buck, honestly. As I mentioned, if you guys have any more comments about this motorcycle specifically, leave them down below and I'll do my best to get to them. But until my next time, thank you again, Harley-Davidson, for inviting me out to ride one of your beautiful motorcycles. You guys be good, and I will see you later.